I found out the farm next to my father's farm now belongs to Unilever.
If care is not taken, Africans might end up becoming tenants in Africa in the near future. So who is Unilever? I might not know her history in other African countries, but I can tell you how she is involved in the history of Nigeria. So Unilever bought up the Royal Niger Company. She absorbed the Royal Niger Company. The Royal Niger Company was mercantile for the British government in Nigeria. So Nigeria was the business venture for the British government. Nigeria enriched Britain, and the Royal Niger Company was the emissary, the one that handled the business called Nigeria.
He's calling Nigeria a business because that's what Nigeria started out as. Nigeria was never meant to be a country. Nigeria did not start out as a country. Nigeria started out as a business that was run by the British. Until date, Nigeria still is a business. Tomorrow, I'll be posting a video on the origin of the so-called country Nigeria. There would be learning how Nigeria came to be. It is actually a sad and a painful reality, so brace yourselves. But for now, let's get on with today's video.
How is it that centuries later, these corporations still have stakes in African countries? That is because colonization never ended. It was just rebranded. Sadly, many Africans in Africa think they've been promoted when they are finally employed by these multinationals, who are in fact responsible for destruction of the country, like Shell, Unilever, just to name a few. These governments might not want to get involved directly, but they have their emissaries on ground doing the dirty job for them. How do we mitigate this effect? How do we ensure that at least Africans still have a stake in Africa in the near future? This is where the diaspora should come in. We need to get involved in our home countries. We need to buy up properties, buy up companies, buy up shares, buy up stakes, become major shareholders in many of these companies. Get involved in our politics so that we can revise laws and bills to help enrich our nation. We have to do something if we must have a stake in the future.
And we also have to wake the rest of us that are back home up to the reality of this multiverse of madness that we are living in. Because you see, ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is a disease. Ignorance is dangerous. Us being ignorant to what is happening around us could lead to our destruction. The majority of Africans do not understand the systems that is at play on this continent, because there are levels to the insanity and wickedness that is at play on this continent. Gross level of wickedness that is keeping the African people down and robbing them of things that is rightfully theirs. And this is why we need to do something about the educational system that exists on this continent. The African people need to learn about their past and what exactly happened there, and how their past is presently affecting their present, and how if changes are not made in the present, there's going to be a problem in the future. Africans need to be told that colonization and slavery never ended.
This was a very tempting offer. I mean, I could easily say, yes, we know better, but no thanks. Just because we are the diaspora doesn't mean we know better. Yes, we have a different view. We see the system from a different angle. But because the systems on ground evolve so quickly, those on ground, the locals on ground, also have a view that we don't have. So neither is better than the other. What we need to do is to work together to fix our systems, to save our countries. Again, where the diaspora might have some sort of strength is in the economic power, because The currencies of the world have been designed in such a way that currently the developing countries, our currencies are less in value than the currencies of the developed countries where the diaspora live or work from. All I would say is that we need each other. We need each other, but we need to work together. Nobody is better than the other. For example, truth is that if you live in diaspora, sometimes you don't know the reality of things on ground. That is why in the present Nigerian presidential election, for example, the three major candidates, two live in the country. One has been accused of living outside the country. So automatically they're like, you don't know what's going on in the country. But at the same time, out of the two that live within the country, one has gone to study other systems. So that's the difference. Might not have the diaspora view, but has traveled to understand how systems work. And then the diaspora are in support of that candidate. So sometimes being on ground is an advantage because you understand how the system works. But you need to ally and partner with people who are the diaspora, who see things from a different point of view as well. That should be a better way to make things work.
Yes, Nigerians, or should I say Africans in general, are aware that they are in a system that is oppressing and suppressing them, but they are aware of this system from a narrow-minded perspective that it's their leaders and their leaders only that is the source of their problem. Like there are Africans that are not aware that there are countries on this continent that are still paying taxes to France. They don't know that there are countries that are still in bondage. These countries for years now have been struggling to free themselves. Some of them don't even own their own resources, and all of this problem goes back to colonization. So the problem is deeper than they even know it. In order for us to fully solve our problem, we have to first be able to identify our problem, know the source of the problem, then we can tackle the problem and then come up with solutions. The problem countries in Africa are having is a foundational problem, a problem that started from the onset of the country, a problem that started during colonization. If the foundation of a house is not solid and this house is shaky, nothing you do on top to keep this house from falling down would work. You have to go to the foundation to fix the foundation of that house before you can have a solid house that would never fall. A country like Nigeria, for example, that deals with a lot of corruption issue, that is because we inherited a system that was filled with corruption from the colonial hoodlums. And that is why year in, year out, we are having corruption issues. And that is because we are still using the same corrupt system that was put together by the colonial hoodlums during colonization when they were starting this business called Nigeria. And all of this is not to say that our so-called present-day leaders are not to be blamed at all for what is happening on the continent, because they too play a role in our own destruction. What I'm saying is the problem goes a lot further than just them.
Unfortunately, many Africans and people across the globe don't know anything about history, colonization, invasion. The only version of history we know is a skewed version. You know, many Africans have only seen people that look like me oppress them. And the only time they've ever seen somebody who looked different from them, the person was coming to save them. UN, USAID, WHO, Jesus Christ. But what we don't know is that behind those oppressors who look like us is a master. The oppressors report to a master who is a puppet master pulling the strings. If you're European or American, I would like for you to ask yourself a question. If you believe that your countries have been going about saving Africans and the Middle East, why is it that whenever your countries leave, we are left worse off than we were before we were invaded or rescued? Check Libya. Check all countries that have received some sort of intervention by the West. Unfortunately, last year, my people, the Igbos, cried out online, "Queen Elizabeth, come and save your children from annihilation." Yes, they really believed that Queen Elizabeth could save them. The same queen who ignored when we were massacred during the Civil War. You know, The same thing happens in the Middle East. When Middle Easterners escape war that's been created by people that look like them, and they move to Germany, UK, what they forget to understand is that those people are sponsored by the West. You know, that is why when many Africans leave Africa, ignorant as we are, some of us, and we get to the US, the UK, France, Canada, we don't want to associate with Black Americans, Black Brits, Black French people, Black Canadians, because our view of ourselves is skewed. We've only experienced pain at our hands, and we've only seen salvation at the hands of the white people. We become white apologists, unfortunately. I just want us to open our minds. The first time I saw this comment and a couple of comments this brother typed, I decided to ignore, right? Because I was like, But here's the thing, because I just took my time to check the profile. The guy don't jabba like me, the Niger. And that is one first problem many Africans have when we travel. The first feeling we get is the feeling of liberation. We are free. We are now in a developed system. And then we try to disconnect from our places of origin. Even me, at some point, I said I'm not going back to Nigeria, just so my viewers will know. But that was because the exhaustion, the whole process, the visa waiting process, everything is so exhausting that you're like, I'm not going back to that country. But guess what? I've gone back to Nigeria a couple of times. And I can understand where people come from when they speak. Because these are the lives I have lived. These are part of the many lives I have lived myself. I talk about colonization. The brother brings in slavery. You're indirectly talking about slavery. Because probably he hangs around white people. People that look different from him. Now, I hang around different people. But the people I hang around know about the reality of history. They know about the atrocities that have been committed. The dark skins amongst them, we can joke and laugh about how if we're up to 5, the police will come. We all laugh about, we know. So I don't hang around people who would make me deny the reality that is happening around me. So this is me reaching out to this brother or people that think like him right now. No matter how much a leopard tries to scrub the spot, they will never leave the body. Okay, soro ngwere ma mmiri. Mmiri ka ngwere. Okay. Be careful. Be careful. Because no matter how much you deny the truth, we'll come back and stab you in the back. The word is enough for the wise. Peace out.